Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Swaim Strategies, a consulting firm dedicated to nonprofit fundraising events. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristen Steele and Samantha Swaim.
Hello, and welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. As we enter today's conversation, we're very excited to have with us CEO of an organization who just had an incredible, stellar, off-the-charts, record-breaking event. And when we see events like that, we always have to ask, well, what is making it work? What is happening? And at Elevate, we had Brittini join us as a guest speaker on a panel talking about how she's really changing the playbook in talking to sponsors. And she's with us here today to continue the conversation, not just to talk about her incredible event, which we are going to talk about, but also how she's changing the playbook. So let me do a quick introduction, and then we'll jump into the conversation. Brittini Lasseigne is the CEO of YWCA Clark County, leading an $8 million nonprofit advancing justice, equity, and safety for women and families. Under her leadership, YWCA has expanded survivor services, secured transformational funding, and launched innovative initiatives like a 4-day workweek pilot. Brittini is a sought-after speaker on equity, equity-centered leadership, health, and justice, and a people-first system and a fundraiser that inspires us and our work so very much. The gold star standard. Brittini, we are so glad you're here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we've watched your career for quite some time, and I've just watched you soar. And it's incredible to see the leadership. But I want to ask you first just about your story and what brought you to the work and the mission.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you. And I like to think that you're a little part of my story because back in the day, I went to fundraising school and you were one of my teachers.
That's true. So good. So good.
So you have a little part of it. Yeah, I always say that I bleed persimmon because I have been with YWCA for so long. And I have left and come back 3 different times.
Oh, 3? I didn't know about the 3rd.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah. So I actually started out with YWCA in college as a volunteer.
Amazing.
And was like looking for a volunteer opportunity that pertained to my degree, ended up coming and then had an internship and then had an AmeriCorps position. And there was a small little moment right at the end of my time with them where they were they had an auction at that point. And they were like, hey, we're looking for volunteers. I went and I was like, what is this world? I've never been to a fundraising event before. And was just kind of blown away with the generosity and the excitement and the energy. And it left something in my brain. I moved away, went across Washington and was working for another nonprofit. And the executive director there was like, hey, I need you to post this position. We're going to be hiring someone to do an event for us. And I was like, I've been to an event. I can do this.
Love it.
So bold.
Love it. So amazing, though.
Right? And she was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I went to an auction 3 years ago.
Once. I'm in.
I can do this for you. This seems like, it was like a breakfast. And I was like, I can do a breakfast. That seems quite easier. I can figure it out. There is Google and I have networks in the community. We can figure it out. And she was like, okay, we can save money. You can do this, but you still have to do your other job too. And so
in the good old fashioned nonprofit way. I was like, as it goes. Job stack.
Yes. And so we put on a breakfast for this organization. I think we raised like $12,000. And that was just like the taste that I needed to be like, oh yeah, this is the space that I want to be. $12,000.
I'm
in. And we grew over time. We expanded to a luncheon, and like before we knew it, we expanded. We were like, ooh, $50,000. What is this? Like we just kept on growing a little bit, and then we did appeals, and then we started looking. I started doing their grant writing. I just got a taste of all of the things fundraising. I was like, this is where I think I want to make my career. I moved back to Portland, and ended up working in an affordable housing property developer, helping to build their fundraising program. And that's when I did the certificate nonprofit fundraising program with what was Willamette Valley Development Officers at that point. And it was through Portland State University, and that's where I met you.
Yes.
And it just gave me such a solid foundation of fundraising, which is what I was looking for at that point. And the instructors were amazing. Like, my cohort was amazing. And then that's when I went back to YWCA after the class. I saw that YWCA was hiring, and I had lived in Clark County at that point, and came back and led the fundraising team for 5 years. And it was exciting because I was not a standalone fundraiser anymore. I had a team, which was great. Still a small shop, but at that point we were a $4 million organization. So this was 2017. And since then we doubled our budget.
That's incredible.
And grew and expanded programs. And I did fundraising there for 5 years. I left for a little bit during the pandemic that I think a lot of people did. They explored other things. And then about a year and a half later, they were like, hey, you want to come back as CEO? Like, we have this opportunity. And I was like, yes, I do. I would love that. I'm not quite done with YWCA. So
I want to call it smart board. Really smart board, because you're an incredible fundraiser. Mm-hmm. So the idea that they knew the value of having a fundraiser in the CEO position, which isn't always the case. Oftentimes we're collaborating with CEOs that come from programs or come from a million different, experiences.
Or
out of sector.
Yeah.
And I think it is part of your special sauce.
Yeah.
Like, watching you as a leader, you have joy in fundraising. You're so good with building community. And I am just in awe of what you've grown YWCA to be. So it's awesome to see. And I hope lots of organizations have boards that see the leader in the fundraiser and continues that journey for them.
Yeah, I think it's so helpful to have that perspective and background in a CEO position, because you are a partner with your philanthropy and fundraising team.
Yeah.
And if you understand it, then it just makes the organization that much stronger.
Yeah. So Shine is your big annual event.
Shine.
Which, if ever there were a name to match a vibe for an event, you've done it.
Thank you. We tried hard
with that name. It's so good. And it has so much mileage in so many ways, right? It's a community gathering to honor survivor resistance or resilience. Maybe resistance too. I'm feeling the outside world a little bit right now.
We were very bold this year, and we talked about resistance. So
I love it.
It's right there.
Great. I think it's important for people to understand the potential of rooms like that, because I do think sometimes events, they're not the easiest ways to raise money. They're a lot of time and energy. And so for listeners who haven't experienced it, how would you describe the feeling of 450 people leaning the same direction in a room together?
Yeah, it is the most warm, joyous experience. It's like a warm hug in that space. And it took really intentional crafting to create that space, because we, prior to the pandemic, we did not have our own gala. We were part of a group event with 4 other nonprofits that we do not have to go down that road. And it was its own fundraising beast, and it was big, and it was a specific way. And we exited that partnership right when the pandemic hit, and they were shifting and looking at doing different things. And we needed to take a little time to figure out what we wanted to do and what a major donor event would look like for us. So we took 2 years to design Shine. And it wasn't Shine the first year, it was Empower Gala.
Right.
And it confused everybody, because prior to the pandemic, we had the Empower Luncheon, and everybody came to the Empower Gala thinking it was the luncheon at nighttime.
Oh, the PM version.
Yeah. So they were like, where's your keynote speaker? We're like, I thought we were going to have like a 40-minute keynote speech. And just all of those same things that you get in the luncheon. And they're like, this is longer. Like, what's going on? And there was so much confusion. So the confusion, that's when we were like, we have to rebrand. And we also thought about, who is it that we want in the room, and who are current donors and what are they telling us? And we have a lot of donors that are over the age of 50. And what they were telling us was they don't want to come to another event.
Yeah.
And a lot of events have been designed for this group.
Yeah.
And so when we started to realize like, hey, these donors are not thrilled about coming to another event. They're not attending. Why are we going to design an event for them? What if we really design an event for this like 35 to 55 crowd and lean in and kind of create this as a space that we can build them up to be our new kind of giving generation.
And boy, are you.
And then also lean into that our mission, eliminating racism, empowering women, is a very bold mission.
Yep.
And it takes a specific person that's like, yes, I'm on board with that. And so we really leaned into that as well, of the advocacy and social justice part of our mission and our domestic violence and sexual assault work that we do as well. And so we put that forward, and that automatically kind of crafted the space of who was wanting to show up and who was wanting to invest. And it also was kind of timely. It was in the spot where like people were really like investing in DEI. And so it was like the cool thing to do. And, you know, now it's like the, I don't
Scary.
know.
That
It's
which
the
shall not be
scary thing.
spoken.
Yeah, but
Yes.
because we already invested and created this space, people are wanting to know that like this is the safe space to come into. They're not like as weary of it. And we haven't seen very many people pull back and say like, no, we can't do this, because I think that they see it safe. They see that we're standing here, we're saying that we're not going to compromise, and they're like, okay, we're going to be there with you. And we were really intentional about who we crafted in that, those partnerships as well.
I appreciate you saying 2 years. We took 2 years and thought about it, because I do feel like the event churn is that which the feedback loop people anticipate is, if we don't have an event this year, we're never going to have one. We're going to lose them all. It'll never have, you know.
Yeah.
But also that intentionality of thinking through, who is this for? In terms of where are we trying to move momentum for the cause, not necessarily who's it for in the room. And then who do we want to come along on that journey?
Yeah.
And then how do we build a space that is the bridge to those pieces? And that intentionality and construction, I think, is something that doesn't get talked enough about in terms of what that can look like for an organization. And when you get clear on that, that becomes the decision point for all the things that you're sort of holding it up against. When you're like, what about? You're like, okay, we decided that this is the core, right? This is the bedrock.
purpose.
We're in the purpose. Now it becomes really easy to make some of those decisions against that. Whereas I think organizations that haven't done that work, when those decisions come up, they're like, that's a 90-day decision process for me. I'm not sure, because there's not clarity of purpose, and there's not clarity of, we're all going in this direction together, and this is what that could look like. So I super appreciate that.
We had a conversation about your event because it was so joyful that it just stood out, right? Like, this is a hard time, and people are going through hard times. And you just mentioned it was a 3-year process to here. So you went through a process of this really big, amazing lunch that had so much more potential than a lunch can do, because you have this very like specific time frame.
Yes. We treated
Evolving
our
it.
lunch as a major donor event.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
And
totally.
then you evolved it to actually be a major donor signature fundraiser for you. But you're very intentional about community centric, and you center joy, even though you're having conversations about hard things, and you're still having those conversations, and you're still finding joy in it. And we had a discussion about, this is the model. It's center your mission, center joy, and have a single intention that you're all working toward. Because it showed up like a shiny beacon, right? And I've had conversations with other organizations since your event who have said, how do they do that? And one of the questions they're asking is, but they had a sold out room this year. And that carries this like other weight and implication, right? Probably for you, for your team, but also for like the other
people
community
watching.
members. Yeah. So like, what does that mean from an achievement standpoint, but also like where you headed from there?
Yeah. I mean, when I think about the first event in 2023, not 4, 2, whatever year it was. We didn't sell out. and we've obviously been working towards that of like, what is the cap that we're going to have where people still feel connected in the space, but we can do all of the stuff that we want. And because we don't fill the whole entire room with people, we have like our reception in there and like our dance room. And so we want every seat to feel like a great seat as well.
Yeah.
And so we're really intentional about what that number is. And so it was exciting that like we hit the sold out moment. I was like, we were looking at it, but I feel like the bigger piece that like was even more important than the sold out moment was that our sponsors were filling all of their seats.
Oh,
that's actually the sign.
Yes, which is so abnormal. Like in the previous 3 years, we would have the majority of sponsors, like maybe like half of them might fill their table, and then the other half would be donating either back a whole table or half of a table or 3 or 4 seats. It always felt like there was probably like 70 or 80 seats donated back to us.
Yeah.
And then we would fill those.
That's the normal.
Yes. And this year there were 6 tables that donated back a number, like a small number of seats, like 2 seats, 3 seats. Like it was like 1 seat. And then there were multiple tables that they were like, can we have 11? Oh. And we were like, I don't know if we can have that many 11 tops. One person asked for a 12 and we were like, oh, okay. That's a lot. And so that was a very odd moment because we also like when we do our math, we account for like being able to fill that in. And it was in that moment as we were doing the math and started getting the sponsor names back and we were like, no one is releasing their seats back to us. And we have all of these tickets sold and we literally have 10 seats left, and then someone bought a table and we're like, cut it out, like shut it down, we're sold out, we have no room.
Well, that strikes for me this like pattern that we see often where like an event will frequently have this like climb for a couple of years, and then it's like the known thing, the signature that people want to be at. You've hit success benchmarks, people are like, that was a great event, we should go back to that. And then there's this like very high for a couple of years where people are like continuing to show up, continuing to support. And then the question becomes, how do we evolve it before it starts to decline in attendance or interest? And so I think you're on a path where you're going to have another big year of growth and you're going to continue to see that like that excitement, that investment, that evolution. But it's telling when sponsors are filling seats. But that's telling towards sponsorship in another way too, which I want to talk about in a minute. But first we need to finish talking about the event.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about stories, because I think you all sit at an intersection that a lot of organizations sit at and get stymied in, which is how do we talk about the work in a deep, meaningful, connected way that doesn't sugarcoat the work? And also, how do we come together in a community in joy to support that work? And so the event centers on survivor stories and resilience. How do you and your team approach that storytelling in a way that honors survivors' dignity while also moving the audience to action?
Yeah, it's a really delicate balance because we have to be really mindful of that our story can be triggering for the audience, and not just the story, like anything that we're talking about on stage about, because we talk about domestic violence and sexual assault multiple times up on the stage. And so it can be triggering for people. So we do first start by making sure that our audience knows like that we're going to be talking about this on stage, and please take care of yourself and to prepare themselves to hear different stories, and to that if they need to leave the room, it is okay. And if they at any point change their mind of coming, it's okay. And so we try to give that language ahead of time to prepare people into we're all about consent. So that they're consenting into this space. And then we also, when it comes to the story, we do a lot of work of picking a program participant that is well on their healing journey, is in a space where they feel like they can tell that story. And at any point, they are allowed to change their mind and say, actually, I can't do this. and we will figure it out. And we let them know that so many times.
Right.
Because we never want them to feel like they have to share. And then we also don't focus a lot on the abusive part of their story and prior.
Yeah.
That is really just a maybe 5 seconds. Like this year, it was, I had a domestic violence situation and we moved on.
Yeah.
So it framed of that, yes, you had that. And then we're going to talk about you accessing services. And then we're going to spend time with you. Like, what does it look like now? What is your shine? Like, how have you grown? How have you come into your own? What does rebuilding that power and autonomy look like for you? And that's where we want to really focus on. And I think having that shift really allows the room to live in that shine moment, that resilience, that and have that warmness versus like sitting in the spot where we're kind of having some like
Showcasing
trauma
Yeah, absolutely.
and like just focusing on the negative part of it, which is not where we want to focus. Like
Right.
YWCA is about empowerment.
Well, what's so interesting too about that I think organizations forget is that is the most concrete demonstration of your mission, because for the folks in the audience who are also survivors and who choose to stay and witness that story, you're showing me that I'm not defined by that piece of my life, but that I can continue to arc toward the possibility and that we're all going to live in that possibility together. And so there's this really interesting space of continuation of mission for everyone in that room to be able to experience what that is. So even if they can't, in the elevator later say, well, their mission is they can talk about that experience of like, God, they told this story and it was so amazing because of all the things that are happening now and that we're all moving and have momentum forward, which I think people lose track of when we talk about ethical storytelling and, all of those pieces and getting out of the stewing in the stew. Just why are we, we get it. But I think demonstrating that for people so that they can also come along is a really powerful space for them to be a part of too.
Yeah. And I think that also thinking about different ways to approach, like you don't always have to have a program participant. One time we had a board member be our testimony. She had experienced domestic violence past. She had not gotten services from us. She got services from a completely different organization. And what she talked about, she had just that moment of saying like, I am a survivor. And then she talked about her experience of being a board member here and what she's learned and like what she's observed. And that was, mind you, it was during our luncheon, but it was one of the most successful and the most funds we raised at a luncheon because we thought about like who she was in community as well.
Yeah.
She was pretty influential in community. A lot of people know her. And so we leveraged that piece.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it wasn't a program participant. So I think that you can also think about like what are the different stories that you can tell that are going to help your mission. It doesn't always have to be someone that explicitly accessed your services.
Yep.
Well, I think that you have used the theme of shine and the intentionality and purpose you have of focusing on the potential, like what's possible, to weave through all of your program, right? Like that has been consistent in the past couple of years where you've had very intentional speakers and every speaker is kind of another piece of that story. You're a beautiful speaker and some of the stories that you've told from stage are really powerful stories. Those are all moving that same continuum forward. But I'm curious about the sort of purpose of your design, where you see in your event other sort of like mission moments or intentionality pull through so that it's not just in that like one story, but it's through the whole event.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it has been a really thoughtful piece through everybody that we put on stage. We're really mindful of how we're representing community up on stage. What is the diversity of people up on stage? What kind of access are we giving up on stage? How are we highlighting different people and taking advantage of that we're in front of 500 people and their attention is all on us? How can we shine a light on some other things? And so if you go from like, we've had the same MC for the last 3 years, Clarissa Hightower. She's one of our board members. She's great. She also has a deep connection to our mission. And so she was just honored to be able to come up on stage and to be able to share like why YWCA is really personal to her.
Yeah.
And so we have that in our MC. And then, we've worked with Alex, our wonderful fundraising host since pre-pandemic. She's been with us for so many years, and she has a connection to the community and like knows Clark County, lives in Clark County. And so that's been wonderful. And just seems to like live and breathe our mission as well.
Uh-huh.
And then we brought in, last year, we do an award at Shine. And that was really important to us because the award had taken a little hiatus during the pandemic, like a lot of things. It's called the Val Joshua Award, and it's highlighting racial justice work that's happening in the community and champions that are furthering it. And especially in this time, it felt really important to launch it back. And Val Joshua is a former board member who has passed and then also was president of NAACP and just did such incredible work in our community. And we're so honored to have this award named after her. And so we honor two different either groups or people that are moving forward that work at Shine. And even this year, like we had two, and then the committee was like, can we honor a third one, like as a special mention? Like we know that we just have the two awards, but like we want to do a special mention to this third one because they're doing such incredible work. And I was like, yes, we can do that. And then we're also mindful of like, how are we creating space for them to be celebrated? And so like, I think sometimes some people will be like, oh, okay, you can have like 2 or 3 tickets. Like we give them a whole table, like each award winner got the whole table. And then the special mention group, we gave them a whole table. And we're also mindful of what other groups are we comping tickets for? Because yes, we could sell all of them, but it's going back to the community and like, who are we trying to get in that room and shine a light on, and no pun intended, but
very intentional.
Yes. Yeah. And so we also have conversation around like, we're going to reserve these tables and we're inviting these specific groups in because we want them to be in the space and they're very important. And it's not because we want them to necessarily make a donation. It's because they are advocating for very similar things in our community and they deserve to be here. And so that was also a conversation. And I don't feel like we're giving up any money by doing that.
Nope.
Because it is so mission aligned to have that.
We have an organization, we tell this story a lot because it was just a profound like game changer on my mind. But we had an organization that for a long time, their development team kind of felt like we're in competition with other like-minded organizations, right? Like we're trying to tap the same resources that other organizations serving similar demographics are trying to tap. And then they had a shift of a new leader, and that leader was specifically looking to build a community of support around her leadership. And she ended up reaching out to all the like-minded organizations and developing this cohort that then started showing up at each other's events. And we saw that it actually impress the donors and raise the profile of every organization. That they all were like, yeah, I'm giving to you and you anyway. I'm so glad to see you're in collaboration and in partnership. Yeah. And so it kind of like, it boosted everyone's fundraising and everyone's like ability to connect with the same people who were showing up and giving because it was so mission aligned for them, which I think is, we live in a world of plenty, right? Like we often tell ourselves that we don't. We live in a world of scarcity in the nonprofit sector, but the truth is there are resources and people are generous. And so how can we like be in collaboration for that?
That is so true. And I think that especially when we were designing Shine, we had a little bit of that mindset of like, oh, what happens if we do design it for this group? They don't show up, we don't raise enough money, and like it's not successful. And what's going to happen? Because that first year, over 75% of the people in that room were new donors. And we were like,
that's a wild moment.
Oh my gosh, like we don't even know what's going to happen. And I think that we raised like $60,000 more than our budget. Yeah. Like that year, you were there that year.
Yeah, I was.
And it was like, whoa. Yeah. Like, we were like, we're on to something here. Yeah. And so that was, and then there's like the whole plan afterwards. Like you like Shine doesn't end. The event doesn't end when like we pick up at the end of the night. It's like, it keeps on going.
Now the real work starts.
Right?
Yes.
And so there definitely was that nervousness piece of what's going to happen, because this is a different group than we have ever seen in a major donor event. And it's worked for us. We've grown every single year.
Yeah.
And people, we get the constant comments from, because there's this small group of people that do go to all of the events, and some of them are coming to ours, and they're like, we don't know any of the people in your room. They're like, we know so few people in your room. We're meeting so many new people. They're like, this is not who we see at everybody else's gala. And we were like, that is exactly what we wanted. Like,
That's
we're trying
amazing.
to build a
fantastic.
whole new group and introduce them to this space, because we had this inclination that they were going to give, and that they were there if we built it for them.
Yep.
That's amazing.
And it was also really important to us that we had a really diverse group in the room.
Yep.
So we were really intentional about, like, I mean, as an organization with eliminating racism, like, if you don't have a like BIPOC group in your space, then like, what are you doing? And that's like, our luncheon was probably like 85-90% white. And that's just what it had been for 25 years. We had it, that's how long the luncheon had been going. And when we really focused in on Shine and started focusing in on like those community partnerships and bringing them in, we have a very diverse group that comes into the space. BIPOC people feel very comfortable in the space. And we continue to just get that feedback of just how joyful, that it feels so much different than any other event that they've been to. And I'll take it.
Yes, you should. What's either behind the scenes or in front of the scenes moment from Shine that you'll keep with you from this year?
We did a little risky piece.
I was
this
hoping
year.
you were going to talk about this.
Is it the dog?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. I was going to say, which one is it?
The song.
Oh, the song. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I guess both of those.
Okay.
Okay. So I can mention both those. So the song was like last minute that we customized this song that had Shine and like our mission in it. And I messaged our MC and I was like, this is what my vision is of that. Like, I sent her the song and I was like, I have this idea of you walking into the back of the room and like getting people up on their feet and like just creating this energy. And she did it so much bigger and better than I ever envisioned. And she was like, get out your phones and turn on your lights. And there's like just these videos of everybody waving their lights and everybody got up on their feet. And it was just right at the beginning. And it just created this central like heartbeat moment. And everybody was shining. No one knew the song because like you had never heard it before, but like it was just like, it kept on repeating Shine and Shine. It was so wonderful. It was everything that I envisioned and more.
I love that.
And it just kicked it off in the best, like, high energy, we're all here for a common cause moment. And then the other piece that I would say is that I have this idea for our organizational video that I really wanted to do it from the point of view of a dog. And that we, because we operate a domestic violence shelter and we're pet friendly. And a lot of people don't realize that we're pet friendly, and our organization is also pet friendly. Like, our staff dog friendly. Our staff can bring their dogs into our community office. And we have on average 5 or 6 dogs every day in the office. Our shelter, like, any pet can be there. These, like, within reason, like, we've had to board a horse before. We don't have boarding on site, but we partner with people. So like, really, we have like no limits.
I never would have thought of that, but
right? We have like no limits to the pet and how we can help, because we never want that to be a barrier to people accessing shelter. And so I had this idea of like, let's introduce people to shelter through the point of view of a dog and like what that experience is, to really drive home the piece that we serve the whole family. And when I first saw the video, I was like, oh, I don't know if this was the best idea. Like, I was so nervous, and I was like, did it translate? Are people going to understand this? And I sent it to my board and had them look at it, and they were just like crying, and they were like, I have so many tears. And then I was like, okay, I think it's gonna work. And we had like a few adjustments, and what we did at the event was right before we played the org video, we had the dog come up on stage, and she was wearing a little tutu.
I saw the tutu.
We saw the tutu.
Right? And she like came
So
up on
good.
stage, and we like introduced that we were going to do the video from her perspective. And people just went wild over it and loved it. And like a lot of people didn't know that we are a pet friendly facility. And there's only 12 in Washington
Which
State.
makes you unique.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like a layer upon layer.
Yeah. And so that was like, and there was a couple people in the audience that I was like, I knew that they were really big animal people, and not that they weren't our people, they were just newer to our mission.
Yeah.
And people had brought them along, and I was like, please bring them along. And they're like my test people.
Yeah.
And they ended up giving like $1,000 like first gift, brand new. And I talked to one of them just this last weekend, and I was like, what did you think of the dog video? He was like, I loved it. You brought a dog up on stage. And I was like, yes.
That's amazing.
It was a win.
That's amazing.
So there's one element there that I want to just tap into, which is the like neuroscience of the moment. We talk about it a lot in our teaching of collective effervescence. You referenced this, but I don't know if you actually know that the heartbeats are syncing. Like that moment, you are creating this opportunity for people to literally be in a single heartbeat. And I always have this question about like, what is possible when we have a room of 500 people all literally in the same moment, in the same breath, in the same heartbeat, and then we ask of them, right? And your event is a perfect example of that. Yep. Like, everyone shows up because it's bigger than them. They want to be a part of it. It feels good to be a part of it.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's so joy-centered, even though you're not shying away from hard conversations. Yep. It is, you're allowing everyone at the event to shine, literally.
Yeah.
Including fun things like photo booths. And there's lots of opportunity for people to be seen as a part of it. Well, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, I want to dive into your sponsorship, because this is where I feel like you are just changing the roadmap on sponsorship, and you have just such a strong relationship to your corporate partners. And so we'll be right back with Brittini Lasseigne.
Great.
Ready to take your fundraising to the next level? Need to get unstuck in your event planning? Now's your chance to connect directly with the experts behind the fundraising elevator. Book a one-on-one consulting session with Sam for strategic planning and fundraising strategy, with Kristen for your programming and storytelling, or Mary for your registration and data tools. They're here to provide you personalized answers to all your event questions. Don't wait. Raise more at your next fundraising event. Book your session today at swaimstrategies.com. You can also find the link in our show notes.
Welcome back. We're here talking to Brittini Lasseigne about the incredible event you just had. And one of the unique differentiators that I've always found really profound about what you all do is the corporate sponsorship work. Yep. And there is a long history of corporate support. I did an analysis with you where I was actually surprised and actually moved to see the investment level that a lot of your corporate partners have. And it's so relationship focused. And so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about that, like how you continue to keep the focus on relationships, corporate partnerships. What does that look like for you and for your organization?
Yes, I think so. For us, we've been around since 1916, and a lot of the development staff have been really focused on relationships. So we have a sponsor who's been with us for 30 years and multiple over 10. And so it's not new to our organization to be focused on relationship and to not just look at every single corporate entity as a transaction, but to see like, how can we really hear what it is that they're looking for, and to give them a lot of different opportunities to partner with us outside of just Shine. And so as we approached this current year in corporate sponsorships, I had tasked our Vice President of Marketing and Communications with looking at doing an annual partnership opportunity. And she made that so much bigger and grander than I ever thought that it would be. In my mind, I was like, I just had thought about a few of the opportunities that we had, and she really looked at everything that could be possible in the organization.
I love that.
For partnership, and threw it into this booklet, and then went even farther. And the first half, because it's like a 20-page booklet.
Oh.
So like the first kind of 10 pages is values alignment. And so she positioned us by going and looking at what are a lot of the corporate sponsors putting on their website as their values and what their priorities are. And then she framed our like overall, not even our overall programming, but our overall kind of philosophy and methods to align with the majority of those values.
Wow.
So when we start going through and we are talking about YWCA in the first kind of 5-6 pages, it's very values aligned, and we're using the language that they use on their website. So it's automatically like keying into of like, oh, this is exactly what we're talking about, versus us saying like, we have a domestic violence program, we have a sexual assault program, we have a preschool, which I think is what a lot of organizations do and what we had done for so long. And so I think that shift that she had was very critical. And then she had this idea to position us as a media partnership. And so when I had hired her about a year and a half ago, I knew that I wanted to pull marketing and communications out of our philanthropy department so that we were more focused on our brand and our visibility as a entire organization, rather than our chief philanthropy officer leading our marketing communications and it always going through the funnel of fundraising. And so we separated it out, which automatically gave a lift to our organization. And it wasn't always so like everything that was coming out was like fundraising. And then knew that we knew that we wanted to invest more into social media, and she has a great skill when it comes to video.
She does.
And she has so many ideas. Like, I think that I don't even know how many hours she spends on social media a day, but she has like dozens upon dozens upon dozens of TikToks and Reels saved. And she's always like, I just need a willing participant. Like, and I'm very willing.
Yes, you are. Which I
There's
love.
not many things I will say no to. And so something happens, and then she like goes to her folder and she's like, oh, I have this idea. And then she'll come and she'll be like, will you dance on a table? Sure.
Well, that's doing something else for you all, though, too, is that it's actually building a relationship to you. Because now we are living in this world where we build our relationships through our social media, right? Like, what is the curated world we're creating that demonstrates who we are in the world? And when we're looking at the why, we're looking at not just you, your whole team. We're looking at all of that work is actually helping to develop a relationship.
Yes.
And it's really well done and smart, and not something a lot of nonprofits are spending a lot of time investing in.
Yeah, it is. There's not really anybody else in our community that is going all in on video, which is where the algorithm is at. And a lot of people are going all in on social media, but a lot of it is static posts. And so they're not getting the interaction that they want.
It's the braver choice, or the safer choice, not the brave choice.
And video, like, it is an investment. And I would also say that, like, you don't have to have a vice president marketing and communications to do video. It doesn't have to be perfect. She is really great at editing. But if you look at like some of the libraries out there, I love watching libraries TikToks and like Instagrams. They're a little clunky with it. And it's fine. And people love it because it's authentic. Like, you don't have to be perfect with it. And so I would say, like, don't be nervous about like having it like edited perfectly and all of that. Like, just put it out there because people are really forgiving. And so I think that, so her having the idea to position us as a media partner was key. And she took it as that not only our social media, but our partnership with the local newspaper. We have a really excellent match that because we've had such a long partnership with them. And you know, when you've been around in community for 110 years, you've had a lot of staff and board members come through.
It's true.
And so we have a number of staff that work at the Columbian
Oh,
that,
funny.
that are former staff.
Yeah.
And then like our sponsor that's been around for 30 years, their head of their social responsibility used to work in our philanthropy department. We have, so we're, we're kind of like this
I see your
alumni
secret.
group
Yep.
of like, you treat people well
Yeah.
when they go on, they still want to interact with you.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And so I think that is also really important as well. But we talk about the match with the newspaper. We talk about how we invest on our website and in our email marketing. But social media is really the key. That's where people got really excited, and creating some really unique moments on social media. And we did a lot of proof of concepting in the first year before we pitched it. And so we invited partners in that were already partners with us, and brought them in. They didn't have to like sponsor anything extra. And then we used those pieces to say like, hey, this is what we could do with you if you want to sponsor in these ways.
Yep.
And we could create like these unique moments with you as well.
Well, it's not only interesting in creating a story and building relationship, but it's also creating a personality for your organization. Yeah. And I've talked to many people in the community who've said, how do we do that? So you're also like leading the way and showing other people, which is awesome.
Yeah. And I think you don't have to, so many people are surprised to know that an organization that does gender-based violence work has so much fun on their social media and is such a joyous place to work. And we say all the time, we take our work seriously, but not ourselves. And that's how you can get through day to day. When you're dealing with that heavy work, you have to have some lightheartedness. And there are like heavy moments a lot of the time. And like having that, those lighthearted moments on social media makes us really approachable. And so
it does.
Like people are like, oh, okay. Like I can get down with the why. Like, like it's a heavy topic, but look, they're having fun there.
I want to do denim day.
Right? Yeah. Come on down to Denim Day.
You're giving folks an in, which is really lovely. So sponsors say yes. So they've gone through, they've looked at a year-long partnership engagement and what that looks like. I think that becomes the chase, right? How do I get them to the yes?
Yeah.
And then after that, you all are in a space of creative sponsorship engagement with folks on every piece of the continuum, whether you're sort of courting them or whatever that process is to get them to come in and take a look at your work, to the people you've had for 30 years. What does that look like in practice for you all as an organization? Because I think sometimes, as with donors, we get the donation and we're like, cool, talk to you next year, right? What does that look like for you and your staff kind of day to day around sponsors? Because I think that also is a key to that 30-year retention.
Yeah, it's a
Definitely.
different approach.
Yeah. First getting to the yes, for us, as we approached this annual partnership, we had to not be afraid that they were going to give in a different area. And I think that I was nervous at first because I was like, oh my gosh, what if a bunch of people decide not to give it Shine and they give lower amounts somewhere else? And we lose money in the end. And I was a little bit nervous. And we also pitched it, not explicitly that way, but because Shine is first when we're talking, and how we kind of talk about it is like, Shine, like everybody knows about Shine. It's still our bread and butter. We love it. We would love for you to give here. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. We want to share other opportunities. We still want you. We still want you here.
Check that box.
And we would love to like talk about other things. And so there were a couple sponsors that were like, I think I really fit better over here. I'm going to move my money over here. And like, there wasn't necessarily an increase, but there was not a decrease.
Good.
And then there were several sponsors that were like, because we had a menu at the end. It was like kind of like you're at a restaurant. And I always had this little pitch of like, okay, like here's our menu. Tonight when you get home, you can sit down at the fireplace and you can have your glass of wine and go through the menu and check box what you would like to do. And I had this pitch every single meeting. And they would all giggle. And then we would go through like and explain like what the menu is. And it was just like a list of, I don't know, like 30, 40 items that they could choose from at different levels. And we had people that would pick multiple different areas and they increased their sponsorships with us that year. And at the end of the day, we were kind of like, this is going to be, if they decide to leave Shine, then that means that like Shine really was not the space for them. And like, why force them into this square peg if they are round?
Yes.
And so we accepted that. And then we just saw this excitement over them being like, oh, I really want to invest in your prevention. Prevention got like so much more attention than we ever thought it was going to be. And people are like all about the youth and breaking the cycle of violence. And then we had talked about our advocacy months. We have Sexual Assault Awareness Month that is happening this month, the Denim Day and Fashion Show. And there were people who were like, oh yeah, I want to do the fashion show. And then some people were partnering with C-Tran, the like local public transit. And we pitched to them Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we were like, how about we do this campaign about the importance of public transit and domestic violence and how that's a safety measure? And they were like, I never thought about that. And they increased their giving with us.
Amazing.
By like pitching this completely different thing that we would have never pitched before.
Okay, I have a whole bunch of follow-up questions to this because we're going to have a bunch of people go, how do I see your proposal? Does it live anywhere? Or is it proprietary and you're not going to share?
It's not on our website.
Okay.
No, we haven't put it on there because it's so hefty. I told you. It's like 20 pages that if you just give it to someone, they get overwhelmed.
Yes.
You really have to have a meeting and go through it.
You have to have
with
a
someone.
navigator.
And we saw there was a couple people that were like, nope, I'm not taking a meeting. Just send it to me. And it was like, they got so
overwhelmed.
It was like, they didn't even know where to begin with it. Because it's so hefty.
Well, it's funny because I've talked to a number of people in the sponsorship side of the corporate, sector who have said, just give me something simple. And so I'm curious about developing.
So what we did is that because what we realized, like, oh, this is overwhelming. So we have the big booklet, and then we have the typical sponsorships that you would see that are individual packets. So if they're interested in something specific, then we can send them the one pager. And we usually know by the end of the meeting, they're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards C's, and we send them, they go away with the big hefty packet, and then we follow up and send them the one pagers of those things that they were specifically interested in. Often what I do is like, I create a customized proposal in addition, and have like additional information that brings it all together, and they can see like their full investment as well.
So I want to talk about that because a lot of times organizations are entering into corporate solicitation for the first time, right? Like this is new, or it's a new person in the role and they've never done this. And I think the assumption is I just need to blast people with a really good proposal. And that never works, right? And it is, you've mentioned a couple of steps that I just want to like pull up and highlight. You've developed the proposal and you spent a lot of time thinking about it, looking at those values alignments, looking at the options everywhere that funding is possible.
But also done the proper valuation of all of those and all the things to put those together.
But then you have a meeting where you're not sending the proposal first, you're having a conversation with them and asking questions to learn their interest areas. And I'm assuming in that meeting, gleaning lots of information.
The first like 20, 25 minutes is asking a lot of questions to them. We don't even bring out the packet yet. It's like sitting either in my purse or like on the side on a seat, because like I don't want them to like be like, oh, let's just look at it.
Right.
And so initially it is the like pleasantries, and then we transition to talking about whether it's like things that I learned off the website or like following up on the event, and like really digging into like, did you like it? Like if their existing partner, like was that valuable for them?
Right.
Like are they enjoying that? Like what other things are they investing in? If it's a new person, then always do your homework, because I don't like asking questions that are like, I just can go to your website. And so I form my questions off of that to learn more from them. But sometimes like people are like smaller companies and like they don't have it on their website. And so this is their chance to really like let you know. So the first 20, 25 minutes is just asking them questions. And then we transition and bring out the packet and say, okay, we would love to share more about YWCA. And I love permission-based asking. And so I often am saying, like, are you okay if I share about YWCA? So that they're constantly opting into it. And then we have the part where we share about YWCA. And then I say, okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about like different areas that you can invest in. And then we go through that. And when we get to the end, I say, like, what's calling out to you? Like, what are you leaning towards? And they usually name off a couple things. And I keep that in my mind. And at the end, we always have some kind of follow-up of, all right, if it's very clear, I'm going to send them a proposal and like they're saying like, will you send this to me? Or I'll ask them, are you okay if I send you over a proposal with this information? Would you like to schedule another time to talk? Are you the decision maker? Like we're trying to figure out what are the next steps. You have to have those outlined so that you're both on the same page of what the next piece is. Cause I don't like just ending the meeting and then sending the stuff over and they're like, well, why'd you do this? Like it's not, I wasn't expecting this. If you could have just asked.
Well, there's also a sales psychology happening when you're doing permission-based sort of review is that every single time they say yes, they're moving closer to the yes. So when you get them to say, like, is it okay if we review this? And they say yes. Is it okay if I follow up? And they say yes. You're moving them closer to actually saying yes to commitment to the sponsorship. But I think that the process is the thing that sometimes is missing for organizations. And so thank you for providing that like clear step-by-step because I think people skip here and there and then can't figure out why. And then they go, I don't know, there's just no corporate money. And it's just not true.
Timing is also very important. We do the bulk of our meetings in September. And so like right now, it's going to be May. And so we are already budgeting for 2027 and what that's going to look like.
And reviewing your proposal offerings.
And we're evaluating like how this last, because we're on fiscal year, so we're July to June, and we're reviewing like how this last year has went, like where everything landed, and then we're looking at the booklet and seeing like how we want to change it. In August the beginning of August is when we start reaching out to sponsors and try to secure meetings with them. We get the bulk of them scheduled in September. So we just send them, like we start with from our presenting all the way down to our community sponsors. And we'll usually send them 4 meeting times of different times. And they'll let us know if one of those don't work. And we just kind of go 3 batches at a time all the month, kind of through August, getting people scheduled. And then we have the bulk of our meetings September and then into the beginning of October. And then the proposals are out. We don't necessarily have the commitments, but we've had the meetings, the proposals. The key is that they're in their budget planning time at that
exactly
time.
Right.
And so we are top of mind for them as they are budgeting. And then we're following up come December, January to see like where did that commitment land. But the other piece is like, that's not our only communication with them. I talked about like how we incorporate them into other things. And so a key piece is a lot of people want to volunteer. And so we are really mindful that we have it can be difficult to volunteer with us because of our service, but we have like 3 things throughout the year that they can volunteer at. And so when those things are coming up, our corporate sponsors have first dibs on volunteer spots. And so we send it to them first and we let them know that like we're sending it to them first because we don't have like, other than Holiday Shop, we have 250 volunteers that come in for Holiday Shop, but we often don't have like a ton of volunteer slots. And so, but even with Holiday Shop, like we send it to them because we're like, ooh, like they're prime spots. Like, what do you want? Which do you want to pick? And people love Holiday Shop and want to volunteer there. And so we are engaging with them that way. And we let them know, like, we don't have a ton of volunteer opportunities, but you're a priority when it comes to volunteering because we want your staff to be able to have different ways to engage because you've expressed that that's important to you. We also invite them to like other things that we're doing so that they, it's not just always monetary exchanges. And so like the fashion show that's coming up, letting them know about the fashion show and that they can come and attend that. Or, and then also when we're having like fun like different social media stuff. Like it might be inviting them in to come and do a social media reel with us that has like nothing to do with their sponsorship that they did, but like it could be a fun opportunity for them to come and engage.
I love that. You lead an organization rooted in equity. How do you?
It's like a dirty word right now.
I know,
I don't like
which is why I like saying it so much. How do you ensure your sponsorship strategy reflects those values? Because I think sometimes there can potentially be, even though you've done all the work to put it into the materials, there still is a form and function practice of, specifically I'm thinking corporate partners sometimes, and how to be in alignment or how to name how potentially we are not in alignment, what those pieces are. How do you determine what you're willing to accept or how those partnerships are structured if it's not a complete fully in alignment yet? Or I mean, I think there's always room for us to teach and grow, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like for y'all?
Yeah, so it definitely is a space that we are always talking about. We do have a gift acceptance policy, and there is like some hard and fast things like we will not partner with. So if you are a gun distributor, that is just a hard and fast. We're a domestic violence organization. That's one of the like main ways of homicide for survivors. Like we're not going to do business with gun distributors.
Yep.
You can't buy Goodwill.
Yeah. And so and there's a few things that are on there that are just like hard and fast. And then there are the spaces where we have conversation and we say like, how are we feeling about this? And what is the relationship? So like, is it okay if I name companies? Okay. So like Chick-fil-A is one.
Yeah.
We don't have an active partnership with them. However, they have come into Clark County. They've been there for a few years. And they're partnering with a lot of organizations. And they have reached out a couple of times around not doing monetary support, but like partnering with our youth summits and what that would look like. And the conversation that we had and that came up was that the local leadership for Chick-fil-A is very different than what the national leadership is looking like. And that they are very LGBTQ friendly. They have some different value sets. And so we're actively exploring that to see, like, does that make sense? Like, while they are saying that they're locally different, like people know the national story, and how would that feel if we were at our youth summit that is specifically designed, it's queer couve, so it's designed for LGBTQIA plus youth, and then we're like giving them Chick-fil-A gift cards. Like, is that going to land? Like, if we did that, there would have to be so much education around around this gift card. And so we have those conversations around to see, like, is it a fit? We also had a sponsor that was really interested. I told this at Elevate, like he wanted to come in and he wanted to adopt a room. And when we looked at his website and his law firm, he had that one of his services was that he defends abusers. And we were like, I don't know about that. And through the conversation, he was like, that actually isn't really what we do anymore. Like, we're really focused on insurance. And he's like, but you know what? That's not even the point of this. How about we put the name of my mom on the room? And he's like, it's not even a big deal. And now, because like we've built that relationship with him and we see like who he is and like that isn't what he's actually doing, we have like a whole relationship with him and his wife. They both own businesses. They've gone in the last year and a half from like just meeting to like they've given us over $20,000 through both of their businesses. And like it just continues to grow. Like, she just agreed to be one of our peer-to-peer peer-to-peer fundraisers this for our campaign this summer.
Fantastic.
And so this family is like all in.
Yeah.
And had we had like just looked at the website and been like, nope, not interacting with you, like we would have never had this beautiful relationship grown and realized like, oh, he doesn't actually even do that. Like, he needs to update
maybe
his
there's an
website.
opportunity for you to educate him to update his website. Well, you mentioned gift policy, and I don't want to skip that because I think it's an important aspect of fundraising that a lot of organizations don't have. And it's something we talk a lot about in the nonprofit sector, but a lot of organizations don't have one, which is who do we accept and not accept money from? And I think it's important because when it's a policy, it's less about the person. It becomes more about a conversation of values. And you all have clearly done that work of understanding your values, understanding value alignment, and being able to have those direct conversations to build those relationships. So it's not about you did this one thing once and that just automatically puts you in a no. It's a, hey, let's come together and have a conversation. And here's our policy and why. It changes the dynamic entirely because it's about the policy. It's not about a single action.
Yeah.
But what I also love is that you're leaving space. Those donors and sponsors, they're signaling something.
Right.
And so curiosity goes a long way to understand what they're signaling and why. And it may just be a corporate partner trying to buy goodwill. Okay. We rode the curiosity out. We know that's what it is, and we're going to make a decision about what that looks like. But it also could genuinely be a family that really wants to invest in their community in that way. And so what can that look like? And so I think often it's the nuance between the policy and the relationship and the conversation and stepping into that space to have those.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say some of the conversations we've even had that, some people may not think about is that some people may be like, oh, you would never accept money from an abuser. And that would be like a hard and fast rule for us. But that's not on our gift acceptance policy. And the reason for that is that, how do people repair harm?
Right.
That's right.
And so some of the ways that people repair harm when they've been an abuser and a perpetrator is by supporting domestic violence organizations. And so sometimes we get letters in the mail and they'll say I did X, Y, and Z in the past. I'm in therapy, and as part of my perpetrator treatment, I'm making this gift. We've had a person who's been giving to us over 20 years a monthly gift as a way to repair the harm that he did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say no, we would never do this. The important part is what is the moment that they're in? What is the story that they've told? What is the repair that they're trying to, or the harm that they're trying to repair? And I feel like where we would feel kind of icky about it is if someone came and they're like, I want to make this gift and I want you to do this big social media blast about it and big email and I want you to make it.
That's right.
That's where we would be like, well, why?
Yeah. That's right.
That doesn't feel right to us. But if you want to do it personally and this is a part of your healing journey, then that's one thing. But if you're wanting a show over it, that isn't actually
a different thing.
What you're looking for.
Well, I think all of it is, all the way from just the one event you do, but all the way through your sponsor relationships, all of it is very centered on intentionality, a clear process, and relationship first, and human first.
Yep.
And I think it's showing up for you in big, huge, awesome ways.
Yep.
So congratulations on all the growth that you've experienced. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to step into the fundraising elevator.
Okay.
Change. It doesn't happen on its own. It happens on purpose. Thanks to nonprofits that believe a brighter future is not just possible, but needed and deserved. And that connect people to causes and turn moments of generosity into movements. That's why Bloomerang is built for purpose. To raise the bar on what's possible and help every act of giving lead to more. Because when the bottom line is a better world, no goal is too lofty. Bloomerang, built for purpose.
Welcome back. We are here with Brittini and talking about relationships and doing the work and being in partnership and what that can look like and how that can blow all of the previous things out of the water for you and your organization and the mission work you're doing. Brittini, we ask all of our guests to step into the fundraising elevator where we're all headed up. This is your moment to offer that parting wisdom tidbit to our nonprofit superheroes out there so that they can keep headed up. What would you say to them?
What I would say to them is that there is never going to be a perfect moment and that you just need to do the thing. we in the nonprofit world, like times are ever changing. And so if you spend too much time thinking about what is on trend, like what are other people doing, what are like X, Y, and Z, then you're going to constantly be behind.
Right.
And so like, don't wait for the perfect moment. Like, yes, have a plan. Like we had a plan. We took a 2-year plan.
Right.
I wouldn't say that we waited for the perfect moment though, but we take risk, we do it, and then like we move on. And so I would say, in the words of Nike, just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, if people want to learn more about your work and get a hold of you, how do they find you, and where should they be headed?
Yes. If you want to learn more about YWCA Clark County, I would say follow us on socials. We're very active on our Instagram and our Facebook page, and kind of growing our LinkedIn. If you want to follow me, I'm on LinkedIn, Brittini Lasseigne. And if you're ever looking for advice and are kind of navigating different things, I love talking fundraising. You can always reach out, and I would love to chat with you.
Amazing. We will have all of that in the show notes so people can find you. I want to endorse that people need to follow your social media, especially your Instagram, because it is just like a daily dose of joy. Like it really is. You're doing hard, important work, but there's still so much light and joy in it. So kudos to your marketing team, to you, to your leadership, your development team, and thank you for joining us today to share your stories.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
Take care.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced by Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson and Heidi Christensen. Video production by John Collier. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Friends, before we leave you, we want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please follow, subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Are you ready to engage supporters and grow your base with your own podcast? Then let us introduce you to our partners at the AV department in Portland, Oregon. In addition to delivering exceptional live event audiovisual production and videography, they also have a top-tier production studio and an expert team ready to take your content ideas to the next level. Contact the AV department to schedule a consultation and start bringing your podcast vision to life.